Hello DPS 5th graders, we are here for our second lesson regarding our essential question of how does the U.S. Constitution shape the rights and responsibilities of American citizens and their government. Today we'll be working with our learning target of I can explain the relationships between two or more concepts within a text. Please remember that you can pause and rewind as you need in this video so that way you can have appropriate understanding and make sure that you take down all of the notes. And of course, make sure that you have something to write on and write with. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so of course we're reading to learn. So today we're reading an article entitled The Branches of Government because we want to learn about the different branches of government within the United States. And to kind of make sure that we are remembering all this and that we have it to utilize during our transfer assignment, remember to take your notes. So go ahead and pause and get down this graphic organizer and then come back to us once you've gotten down the graphic organizer. All right, so you should have paused, written down that graphic organizer, and now we can go ahead and get going. All right, so this is the beginning of our article. We notice that really this intro does exactly that, just introduces those three parts, legislative, executive, judicial, and we already have those down. So let's go ahead and start looking at what each one does. All right, so I'm going to start with the legislative branch. As I'm reading, I'm going to go ahead and annotate so that way I can remember some important things that it's saying. It lets me know that the legislative branch is in charge of making laws. It looks like it's made up of a couple different parts, Congress and some agencies, and it does remind me that Congress is made out of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Gives me a little bit of information about it as I'm reading through, and then it also talks about some of the different government agencies. All right, so now that I've read that section, I'm going to go ahead and go into my graphic organizer, and what did I learn about the legislative branch? Well, it makes the laws, and it includes Congress, which is that Senate and the House of Representatives, and some government agencies. That's the information that I pulled out, and I want to go ahead and remember. Go ahead and pause, so that way you can get that down in your notes as well. And now that you've gotten that down in your notes, because of course you paused to write it down, let's keep on moving. All right, so our next one is the executive branch. Okay, it says that make sure that the laws of the United States are obeyed. The president is the head of that. They also have the vice president and the cabinet members. And then it lists some things that they do. All right, so now that I've read that section, and of course you can pause and make sure that you have read that whole section. Let's go ahead and put down what that executive branch does. It makes sure that the laws are followed. I could pull that directly out of that text again. And it includes the president, the vice president, and his cabinet, along with a couple of heads of agencies. Again, pause to make sure that you have this down. All right, let's go to our last branch as I'm reading through. The judicial branch is in charge of deciding the meaning of laws and how to apply them. Okay, it does note that the Constitution is the highest law, and then the U.S. Supreme Court is the highest court, and that has 9 judges on it. As I continue on, I note that the Supreme Court is to decide cases that may differ from the U.S. Constitution. Okay, so that's going back to deciding the meaning of the laws. All right, so now that I've read this section, let's go ahead and continue with the notes. What does the judicial branch do? It decides the meaning of laws, and it includes the court. The main one being the Supreme Court, the highest court being the Supreme Court. Again, pause to make sure you've got all of this down because we need all of this information to go ahead and hit that learning target. If I can explain the relationships between 2 or more concepts within a text. In this case, our concepts are the legislative, executive, and judicial branch. Okay, so how are these related? Well, I noticed that each one has to do with laws, okay? So each one has to do with laws. They don't do the same thing with laws. They kind of all work together to overall carry out our laws because one of them makes the laws, one of them makes sure they're followed, and one of them decides the meaning. All right, so if I'm going to go ahead and hit that learning target down here, how are all of those related? Well, all branches influence the laws Americans have to follow, and each influence the laws in a different way. So that first one is how they are all alike, and then the second one is how they are different. So I'm comparing and contrasting. All right, friends, make sure that you have all of this down, and then once you are ready, you can go ahead and move on to the assignment for this lesson.